Well, it is 1:30, so we are going to officially start, and I just wanted to introduce the good doctor, Dr. Norman, and he will be moderating this session. So enjoy, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Jen. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, Dr. Norman.
How are you gentlemen doing this afternoon?
Great, how are you?
Can't complain. Can't
Hey,
complain.
first of all, Dr. Norman, I don't like that shirt you got on there.
What are you? I bought it just for you. I bought it just for you.
You did.
Oh, Lord.
It begins. So let's see. So welcome, everybody. Thank each of our speakers for joining this panel today. And thank you for everybody who's been participating in our drive today to increase organ donor registry, blood donations, and bone marrow screenings. We appreciate you. My name is Silas Norman. I am a transplant nephrologist here at Michigan Medicine. I am also one of the interim medical directors of our kidney and pancreas program. Very happy to participate this afternoon. With transplantation, we have the opportunity to save lives and dramatically improve lives. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this effort today and every day. And we have an esteemed panel with us that I want to give an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we'll delve a little deeper, hear some stories, and then hopefully answer some questions about organ tissue donation, bone marrow donation as well. Perhaps if we start with Mr. Hale, if you wouldn't introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Chef Oliver Hale. I am a two-time 31-year kidney transplant recipient. I'm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have been very active with the transplant organization, from being board members on one here in Grand Rapids to being part with the state board, all the way up to being on UNO's board twice. I've been on there as a patient advisory and a patient affair for Network 11, I think it was. Yeah, was a representative there. Also, I am a member of the United States Transplant Olympic team. I've been to, so far, 9 countries and competed in over 20 different transplant games, and have a total of, the last time I counted was 33. So 33 medals. So I'm very active in, but the biggest thing is I am a celebrity chef. I used to do a TV show here in Grand Rapids. My chefing took me to England last year, where I was asked to do a cooking demonstration in front of 46 countries. And it was very nice and well organized. And now I'm doing a host cooking show on Friday once a month on a network. You probably heard about Urban Outreach Media. I do a renal cooking show for an hour once a month.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. I'm going to work around the Zoom screen here. Mr. Espy, great to see you again.
Good to be seen.
Wonderful.
I almost got through a day without not unmuting, but almost.
Keeps you sharp.
Jerome Espy, and I am coming up on next month now, 2 years as a kidney.
Congratulations.
And so very excited about that. And it's totally changed my life. I know we'll kind of get into the stories a little bit later on. But originally from Kalamazoo, as I said, coming on the call, and really enjoyed that. Actually, my best friend, I was a friend of his wedding, is Tyrone Bynum. I don't know if you know him, Mr. Hale. Tyrone Bynum, he's a TV guy out there. But, so I have a lot of connections across the state. Active in mentoring with MOTEP. I'm on the MOTEP board.
Yeah.
Tanya there. Always good to see Miss Tanya's smiling face. But also do some mentoring through U of M Hospital, which is I am full-fledged a U of M patient and excited about that. Now, my sports affiliation is on the other side of the state. but
Okay.
my life belongs to U of M. So always glad to be there. Do some volunteering also with National Kidney Foundation and anyone else that comes across my life that was willing to hear me talk. I will tell my story and talk about the benefits of being an organ tissue donor, particularly for communities of color. And I'm also a mini polyglot. I study 3 languages right now, so I'm learning that as well. So great life and always happy, and every day is an adventure, and I'm glad to be on this adventure.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. Next up, Tanya Smith. Tanya, wonderful to see you again.
Hey, Dr. Newman. Great to see everyone on this very important panel. My name is Tanya Smith, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator with Gift of Life MOTAP. That's Minority Organ Tissue Transplant Education Program. A lot of people don't know, surprisingly, back in April of 2014, I became a bone marrow donor. So I have a little story to tell and hopefully answer some questions that people may have. And prior to my donation, I used to work for Red Cross, and then now I work for MOTAP, so full circle pretty much. So thank you for having me to be a part of this great panel.
Wonderful. Great to have you. Sounds like we'll have a breadth of information you might be able to share with us.
Yeah.
All right. And we have Dennis Sandoval. Mr. Sandoval.
Yes, how are you, Dr. Norman? Thanks for everything you do on a daily basis. Obviously, that's very, very important to make sure everybody's life is continued, and we appreciate that very much. Dennis Sandoval, District Manager for the American Red Cross. I've been here a little over 9 years now, and enjoying it. I always tell my wife, it's like after 40 years of work, I'm doing something that working with something I love and have a passion for, and I know I preach blood donation and platelet donation and so on, and we'll cover how important that is on a minority donor basis later on. But I'm happy to be here, and we're doing really well here. I want to thank all the blood donors that are here. I'm sure they can hear me. We're at last account I had, we're at 112 units so far in the day. Shooting for 200, so we're rolling that. We're rolling down the road here, so we're doing really well. And just want to thank everybody for being here today.
Wonderful, fantastic. Thank you, thank you. And we have Miss Cassandra Perry.
Hi, everybody. I am a bilateral cornea recipient here in Michigan, and I'm here just providing moral support. I've had the honor of meeting Chef O at the transplant games as well. I was the first cornea recipient to participate in Team Michigan back in 2014. I only won 1 gold medal though, Chef. You've got me beat. But anyways, I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So I think a lot of questions, a lot of discussion we could have. And I wonder if Tanya, if you might start us off. We're talking about the importance of minority donation this afternoon. And so I wonder if you might just give us a few facts and help us understand the need out there and why it's so critical that we have increase in minority donation.
Well, here in Michigan, probably more than 2,000 people are waiting on a transplant, of which about 80% are waiting on a kidney, and 45% of those are African American minorities. So it's so important for all 3 of us to do our best in recruiting, whether it be blood donors, whether it be signing people up on the organ donor registry or signing people up on the bone marrow registry. There's always a need in the minority community. So for me, back in April of 2014, I was approached, well, I signed up when I first started at Red Cross. I joined the bone marrow registry, and as fate would have it, 14 years later, I was called to be a donor. The process took about 4 to 5 weeks, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So, and you can't be in recruit for blood, recruit for organs if you can't do your part. So I felt that it was important for me to kind of what's the word, stand by what I'm trying to get other people to do. If I can't do it, then how can I encourage others? So I'm a member, I'm on the organ donor registry. I've been a blood donor as well as a bone marrow donor.
Fantastic. And it sounds like an overall very positive experience that you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think back about it, the process, like I said, took about 4 to 5 weeks. Every week you had something that you had to either have to do a blood draw or speak with a physician or get an exam. And even to the day where I had to, the week rather, where I was getting the shots because I did the perennial stem cell donation. The nurse came to my house every day for 4 days. And as I reflect back, everyone was wonderful. Everyone was nice. There was not a person that I could say steered me or made me feel nothing more than appreciated, encouraged, and special.
Wonderful, wonderful, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we might go to the chef, Mr. Hale, and I wonder if you might talk to us a little bit about your transplant experience, and then also given your unique expertise, if you might talk a little bit about nutrition and kidney disease and nutrition and having a transplant and how you've brought those two things together.
Well, you got to understand, my experience started back in the early 80s, and back then there was not much going on. I commend Tanya and Dennis. Dennis, I take part in the big house blood drive you guys do every year, and I kind of missed it this year. I hate that we couldn't be able to do it. But back when I started, there was those support groups and things like that. So I have started some support groups. I started getting involved, and then I started trying to hit the road about speaking and trying to spread the word. And, you know, a lot of people didn't want to hear what I have to say about it. And at the time, I wondered what was going on. Now, Tanya, you part of Motec, and what's the name? Ramona. I have been trying to get you guys to come to this side of the state to get something started, because I would love to see Motec get involved with the west side of Michigan, because, you know, there's nothing going on over here. I tell people about Motec, they don't know what it is.
Okay.
I wish you could put that on your list and about doing something over here. Now,
Absolutely.
so my experience has been very, actually, long-standing. 35 years of being around the whole kidney world. And then as being a chef, I started using my technique. Like when I did a TV show for 11 years, 315 shows, and people want to know what it costs to come into the show. I said, all you have to do is show your show your heart on your driver's license or sign up for an organ donor card. Organ donor. And that's all you have to do. And I got a lot of people to do that and still do when I talk about things and go places. The nutrition value have changed over the years, but it's still basic. You have to watch your potassium, watch your phosphorus, sodium, and different things like that. And when I do recipes, I have people write me. In fact, I got 2 people today I'm going to be sending recipes out that ask me if I can come up with a certain recipe, a chicken dish or some kind of vegetable that they can have, but they don't want it just plain green beans or plain asparagus. And so I put together some good nutritional value meal. I have a program on my laptop that takes everything I put in it and break it down into the nutritional values that people need. And I watch what I put in it. And one thing I don't use in none of my cooking is salt. No salt, no salt. And people that have tasted my food or seen it say they cannot believe the flavor that they get without having salt. So I'm very happy about being mainly on that part about the nutritional value. And that's what I call giving back. Because I had 2 families that have made my life what it is. And I don't know who they are. And I don't have the big bucks to send them, but my way of giving back is to help people live a happier life on dialysis and after transplant.
Wonderful, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Espy, I think you have a fantastic story, and I wonder if you might share a little bit of testimony and some words with us this afternoon.
Sure, I'm honored. I'm always honored whenever I get a chance to talk about the amazing journey and everyone that has gone through this journey, whether it's blood donation, organ tissue donation, has a story. And that story can impact people. So I'm always very grateful to be able to tell the story. So I began, I had kidney failure. And I always tell people one of the most challenging phrases that we hear when we reach a place of having a kidney issue is that term end-stage renal disease. I took offense at that when I first heard it. It's like it's the end. The good news is that it is not the end. And so I was on dialysis for 2 years, peritoneal dialysis, so I did it at home. And my health had declined, my energy was declining, my numbers were going down. I think that by the time I got to surgery, I think my GFR was under 10. I know that. I think it was like 9 or so. But I happened to chance, I went to an event. It was actually on April 10th of 2017. And I went to an event, and my wife and I didn't really want to go to the event, but we did go. And so we were the first ones there, and the host came and said, okay, we want you all to sit right here. So we sat there, and the person sitting next to me was a friend I had known some years ago, but we hadn't talked to each other for about 5 years. So I had been looking for a kidney, been doing everything I knew to do. But and I explained to him that day, I wasn't feeling particularly well that day, but I connected with him and told him what I was going on. And without skipping a beat, he said, well, if I'm a match, I'd give you a kidney.
Oh,
And he just
wow.
spoke up, and he just said, and so my wife and I tried to keep our inner pom-pom going. We didn't jump up for joy, but we just kind of looked at each other like, is this dude serious? Is this serious? But to his credit, he called U of M that next Monday. The event was on Saturday. That next Monday, he called and began the process. And so on December 12th of 2019, I received my kidney from a close, now a close friend of mine. I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk to him 5 days a week. We're not in the same church, but we're on a kind of a Bible study group. And so I talk to him 5 days a week. And so it's really great that I'm still connected with him. One thing I always also try to think that before I actually went through this process, in my mind, I had to have an African-American donor, but I didn't. My donor, his name is Tiger Whitehead, an outstanding man. He's a veteran and just a super guy, and he donated to me. And so his physical birthday was 3 weeks ago. And so I texted him and said, your kidney says happy birthday to you. So it's really good to be able to do that. But it's an honor to be able to be out here talking about, that one person can save up to 75 lives with organ tissue, corneas, and all of that. And so if you really think about that, think about the multiplicative effect that you can have with your life. Everybody wants to live with purpose and have an impact. And you can do that by signing up on the donor registry, and particularly for communities of color. And Ms. Tanya has just explained the need in our community. So anyone that will listen to me, I'm going to tell my story, and I'm happy to be able to do it. And then I'm signed up. I was going to be in the transplant games that was going to happen this year, but I'm looking forward to it this next year as well when it's coming up. Hopefully, thankfully.
So you can get some of these, okay?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, so that's the nickel version of the story, but always happy to be able to tell it.
Wonderful, thank you. We appreciate that. And then I think you laid the foundation. You noted that it's not just organ donation that can be a benefit when people sign up on the donor registry. And so I think that leads us nicely into Cassandra, if you want to help share your story, because I think Jerome set that up nicely for us.
Yeah, sure. My story is a little bit different where my wait wasn't very long for my donated corneas. However, the path to diagnosis was something a little more challenging. So, you walk around life looking fine. People assume that you feel fine. My particular journey was that I was a a single mother with two very small kids, age 7 and age 9, raising them by myself physically, financially, no family in the state of Michigan. And then you can imagine when I was finally diagnosed with a very, very rare genetic cornea disease, my doctor attributed it to finding a needle in a haystack in my diagnosis. But, you know, my journey was difficult in that I didn't have a lot of support. And, you know, like I said, you look fine. People don't understand why you're not fine. But for me, you know, this journey has been life changing in a lot of ways. I feel like I became a better mother, a better human. You know, just finding the silver lining of the people who supported me at Eversight, and as well as Gift of Life of Michigan, and even, you know, going to MOTEP events and things like that. I just found a great sense of community within the transplant community. But for me, it sort of morphed into, you know, raising awareness for events like this is incredibly important. But for me, it was, how do I translate that into my personal and professional life? And I'm very fortunate that I'm a vice president of benefits for my company, a global engineering company. In the US, we have a very large footprint. And so for me, I've been able to weave into our wellness or well-being program, you know, how can I reward you for being part of your community? How can I reward you for being on the Marrow list, or I'm sorry, Be the Match, and being on the transplant registry and things like that. And so that was really important to me, because everyone does deserve access to quality medical care. And removing barriers like that, even in a very small forum at my company, has been very rewarding. But it has also opened up this new way to awareness for me outside of what we are doing here, and even going to the transplant games or whatever it is. It's just another avenue that I feel is just so incredibly important.
Wonderful, thank you. And just, I think, as you said, highlights that each of us have a part to play in trying to close this gap and meet the needs. So fantastic. So Mr. Sandoval, so Dennis, we talked a bit about organ transplant, tissue transplant, but one of the big things we're doing today is this blood drive. And so talk to us a little bit about the need that's out there, the challenge, and what we need to do to help meet that.
Well, of course, the need is always there, and as you know, because we're always saying, you know, everywhere, every 2 seconds, somebody needs blood. Blood is, of course, I always call it is an organ of the body, one of the biggest organs that flows through your entire body and makes all the other organs work. You know, one person can come in, donate, and save 3 lives possibly with that one donation, because we break it down, of course, into the red blood cells, the platelets, and the plasma. But the biggest thing that I'm here to talk about is appeal for minority donations, and as far as blood supply goes. We just came out of National Sickle Cell Month in September, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with sickle cell. Sickle cell is it's called sickle cell because your red blood cells turn into a sickle shape, and they cause problems circulating through your body. They can clog up arteries and veins and going through there as they're coming through small areas, and that's what causes a lot of the extreme pain in the body. It's one of the most common it is the most common genetic blood disease in the country. Affects about 100,000 people in the United States, primarily African American and Hispanics. As I said, it can cause extreme pain. It causes anemia. People get run down. It can even cause strokes as young as 10 or 11 years old. People can suffer strokes from sickle cell. And the big thing is that a sickle cell patient can take up to 10 units of blood on a monthly basis. So that's, if you just do the math, that's over 120 units in a year, for one patient. So you can imagine, with our COVID pandemic, how much that has affected. The population of the United States is 13.4% African American. Prior to COVID hitting us, we only were reaching 3.1% of African Americans that donated blood. So obviously that reduces that number quite a bit. That was our 24-month average prior to COVID. Now after COVID, that's already dropped down to 2.3% in September of 2020. So you can imagine how much stress that has put on the blood supply, trying to meet the hospital demands to treat sickle cell patients. So the Red Cross says, we've come up with a plan. Our goal is to triple our African American donor base as far as red blood cells go by December 31st, 2022. We're actually we have target markets that we've designated, and the Detroit area is one. We will actually be having a representative that will be going out and calling on African American churches, organizations, wherever we can find a primary base of African American donors to increase that base, because it's so important. Most people, when they get a blood transfusion, they might get 1 or 2 units of blood. With that amount of blood that a sickle cell patient receives, that increases the possibility of a reaction. And Dr. Norman, I'm sure you're familiar with the rejection of organs and so on. With the blood, the closer we can match the blood to that donor, to the recipient, it's going to cause that to be less of a chance of a reaction. And that's why it's so important to increase our African American donor base for blood, so that we can closely match it. African American, everybody's familiar with A, B, and O, AB types and so on. But there's over 600 antigens in blood that have to, with somebody receiving that many transfusions, it needs to be even closer matched, so that we can avoid having that reaction as they go down the path. Because the more units they receive, the more chance of that body rejecting that blood if it's not closely matched. And so African Americans primarily have what we call CEK negative, which is CE and K are part of the antigens in your RH factor. And so we're looking for CEK negative blood from African American donors, so that it more closely matches that sickle cell patient. In some cases, there are people that have gotten calls. We have a sickle cell patient that you match really close, and we need you to come in and donate. So we have gone to that extent of getting them to come in. But it's so important to increase our African American donor base because of this, because it's such a serious disease and it affects so many people. So we have dedicated these resources. We're reforming our marketing plans. We've hired an African American based marketing company to help us, so that we can reach out to the audience. But my appeal is to everybody in the audience, any African American blood donors, we need you. We really need you, and more importantly, the patients need you to come in and help them out, because we've heard our stories here about how important it is to get the kidney transplants and the cornea transplants and so on, and the bone marrow transplants, because the bone marrow is also one of the only successful cures for sickle cell, the bone marrow transplant. And it's a long process, but it has shown great strides in helping to cure the disease. So all of us on here know how important it is to increase our African American donor base.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we have our blood drives going on today, the Kensington Hotel until 5 p.m. today, and the Graduate Hotel in Ann Arbor until 3 p.m. today.
Yeah, and yes, it is. And Chef, we'll still take Ohio State blood. We do, we'll still work that in.
Okay.
But yes, it runs till 5 o'clock today here in the Kensington, 3 o'clock in the Graduate Hotel. So, and both are doing very well. I mentioned the Kensington here being over 112. I want to say the Graduate is actually very close to their goal. They still got an hour to go, and it looks like we're going to make our goal over there. So things are going well. We're living in a different world, obviously, but we've had to adjust a little bit and cut down on our walk-ins and things of that nature. But the donors are coming out, and that's what's the most important factor.
Wonderful.
Great.
Looks like we were joined by Artelia Griggs. Artelia, great to see you this afternoon. I wonder if you might share a few words with us.
Oh, I wasn't ready to speak yet, but I can, Dr. Norman, for you. Just want to say thanks for inviting me to talk, and I was preparing to be on around 3:30, so I'll come back. But I just know that every effort that we make in terms of trying to get more donors is worth it. Every time We talk about this subject. If it reaches someone who has not registered or reaches someone who is skeptical and has questions about it, it's important. I speak on behalf of donor families. It's very difficult when you lose a loved one, but when you realize what they've done and how it's impacted someone else's life and allowed them to live on or have a greater enjoyment of their life, it is worth it. So thank you for allowing me to speak at this time, and I'll see you a little later on.
Wonderful. Great to hear from you. I want to be mindful of the time. I think we're coming up on the end of our session, but I want to thank all of our speakers today for just really giving us both some encouraging stories and also information about the need. If you are interested in donating, please sign up on the donor registry. You can go to Gift of Life Michigan. That is golm.org/go/WFL. And bone marrow registry, it's join.bethematch.org/GoBlue2020. So please join us and help close this gap, meet this need. And we appreciate you joining us. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
see ya.
And
Thank you.